your CV has at least one red flag, you are going to catch it and fix it by the end of this video. In case you're new here, my name is Miranda. I am an Erasmus Mundus alum from Canada. I have won over 6 figures in scholarships, and I've also received fully funded travel opportunities to places like Japan and Germany. Erasmus Mundus is an extremely competitive scholarship program. You need to be thinking, how can I stand out? One of the ways you can do that is to click that subscribe button so you know when I come out with new videos on scholarships and opportunities.
Having a great CV can get you to the top of applicants. That includes everything from the design and the format to spelling and grammar to the content and information and to the categories and the flow of the actual CV and how the reader experiences that CV in front of them. In my experience, CVs also require multiple revisions. So it's not something I recommend you leaving to the very last minute. I'm sure that you already have CVs and resumes from your previous applications to various jobs or internships or conferences, but you still want to give yourself a lot of time to create and finalize the CV, even if you already have a good foundation. But before you start working on your CV, please find the answer to this question. Is the Europass format recommended or required? For background, Europass is a CV style or CV template that many EMJM programs will require or recommend their applicants to use. This question will be answered on the program websites. If the program website says that Europass is mandatory, you need to use Europass. I'll show Europass soon, but please note if you need to use Europass or not. If the program says Europass is not mandatory, but it is recommended, I still believe that you should use Europass. If Europass is not recommended or required, that means you are able to choose the CV design and format that you want to use. I'm going to stress that you need to find the answer to this question before you start making your CV. There are programs that require the Europass format, and every year there are applicants who are automatically rejected because they did not comply. They didn't read the requirements or they uploaded the wrong CV. That's an automatic rejection. Please be careful of this because a lot of people may get confused or overlook this very crucial detail. If the Europass format is required or recommended, you need to start and build your CV through this website. To find it, just Google Europass CV and it's the first link that comes up. You'll see this page and you're going to click log into Europass. You won't see immediately at the top creating an account or signing up. You need to click log into Europass. Then you'll be brought to this page. It says sign in to continue. If you have previously used Europass, possibly for other jobs, or you are a returning applicant, then you can proceed with your email and your login. If you are totally new to this, then you'll continue with create an account. And you go through these steps, like with any account creation, you'll use those credentials to log in, and that's how you'll be building your CV. Europass is quite intuitive, and there are many guides on YouTube about how to create your CV generally, but it's quite easy to get started. A lot of the fields will be populated for you, and you just have to put in your data and your information. At the end, you will have choices about which template you want to use. There are different templates and styles. People have asked me which one should I use, which one is better. My best advice would be to play around with what you think looks good. It depends often on the amount of information you have per bullet and per section, but not one template is going to get you bonus points, for example. They're all Europass styles, so they're all valid. It will just be up to you as to which template you prefer to use. And that can be based on what information you have in there, but it's your choice. You won't be getting extra points or being reduced points based on the template. If you have other questions regarding the Europass format or Europass, so you can contact me, or I would advise you to look at the various YouTube tutorials about Europass overall. There are some ways to start the CV process to ensure it's as smooth as possible for you. What I recommend is that you first find a previous CV and use that as a reference. If you're applying to Erasmus Mundus at the master's level, you likely already have a CV or multiple CVs that you have previously submitted to other opportunities. Find the most recent one of those. Next, what you're going to do is all of the content and information, copy and paste that into a Word document or OneNote, whatever platform or system you use. Copy it and paste it in there. Do this before you start styling and using templates. A lot of applicants get really excited to start styling and designing their CV, and that enthusiasm is awesome, but you want to ensure that you have the content ready and available. I also recommend that you save that document or that file as soon as possible. You don't want to be the applicant who discovers 2 days before the deadline that somehow they lost their file or their laptop crashed and they don't have a backup. So save it, email it to yourself, copy it to the cloud or whatever you use. This will prevent you from having a big problem or a big crisis later. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to go through the information. Think about since that point, so since you last touched that older CV, what have you been up to since then? What have you achieved or accomplished? Any new jobs, leadership experiences, conferences, publications? What have you done? So start filling in those gaps in that document. You can put them in bullet points. A lot of this is like brainstorming and mind mapping just to get everything on one page. Then, when you have it on one page, it's a lot easier to shift and make it better. But you do need to have that foundation first. So, list everything there. Even if you start going to 3, 4, 5 pages, dump all of your information of all your achievements, accomplishments, put them there. You can sort and edit later, but it's good to have more and extra data and information. Then you can cut and be strategic. When you have that brainstorm and everything together on that page, what you want to do is take like the highlighting tool, for example, or the comment tool, and look at the relevant experiences and achievements related to that program and the learning outcomes. This is where a lot of applicants tend to get stuck or make CVs that are not as strong. They dump everything into the CV and they submit it, but they haven't actually tailored what those experiences are and were to the actual program that they want to get into. Because of that, they end up putting a lot of filler activities or activities not exactly related to the program. And the selection committee is left trying to figure out what type of profile you have. This is very similar to if you're applying for a specific job with a certain requirement of technical skills or background. In your CV to that job, you want to highlight those skills and where you have learned or gained or actioned those skills and competencies. So you need to ensure that this puzzle piece, which is your CV, fits with the program that you're applying to. So look and decide which ones are relevant. This is especially the case for students who end up having a 5 or 6 page CV. You cannot submit all that. A lot of selection committees and programs will say it's a maximum of 2. So you need to trim and be strategic with the content as well as the spacing. I'll talk about spacing, formatting, and styling up later when I show the examples. But for now, consider what is actually relevant to the program. What are the highlights, the biggest strengths, the biggest moments of impact that you have had? Again, your CV is not just a summary of your experiences. It's just a strategic document that highlights why you're the right fit for the program. Not everything is going to fit in the letter of motivation. A lot of those details will go in the CV. Here are some key elements of a strong CV. First, keep it concise. In many cases, the programs will say that 2 pages will be the maximum. For other programs, they may not put a maximum on it, but that does not mean you should make a 9 page CV and start attaching everything. The reader going through it is going to experience a lot of fatigue and they're going to lose focus. You want the most impactful aspects of your profile, of your background on the first page. Absolutely, no doubt. Committees are going through hundreds of applications. Now, some programs are even getting thousands of applications. So they really appreciate a CV that is clear and to the point. Next, proofread carefully. Spelling and grammar mistakes can hurt your credibility. So take the time to review your CV or ask someone else to check it for you. When it comes to personal information, only include what's relevant and need to know. Details like your marriage status or your religion are unnecessary. Please be cautious of also giving out this type of information. Please also do not put your national ID number or that type of personal identifying information. Formatting also matters. Keep your CV professional by avoiding excessive colors and graphics and logos. Simplicity and readability should be your priorities. Please don't put neon green and yellow, hoping that it'll attract the reader to focus on yours a bit more. It's going to give them a headache and be a bit overwhelming. Ensure that you have consistency in your font and text size. I've seen many CVs where the fonts are different, the text sizes are fluctuating, and there's lacking a lot of flow. Choose a professional font that's easy to read and please stick to it throughout the document. Structure your CV strategically as well. That means organizing sections in a logical order. When we do the examples, I will show that. You want to ensure that you have the major components like education, professional experience, if you have international experience, skills and languages. Again, the very important parts of you as a person and your background, you want in the front, very visible and with minimal clutter. Next, you want to use action oriented language. Instead of passive descriptions, start your bullet points with strong action verbs like developed or implemented. That emphasizes your contributions. Remember, the CV and bullet points, you are not summarizing the job description of your current role. You are talking about your impact, your achievements, what projects you have led and contributed to and designed, and how that has helped your company or others, and the results. Do not summarize word for word what you do at your job every day. The job description of what you do versus your impact are very different things. You'll also see here 3 stars. These 3 points are not relevant if you're using the Europass format. That's because the Europass format already has these things populated. So things like the logo and the font, Europass is already taking care of it. You don't have to worry about colors or certain aspects. These are more for folks who are able to design any type of CV they want and submit that. Here are some other points I want to make about the CV before I show some visuals. Use action oriented language. and that will help you show your impact. You want to include diverse but relevant experiences. If you need to take out things from your CV, you want to reduce the repetition, but still keep the examples and experiences relevant. Another important point is that Erasmus Mundus programs truly value diverse experiences, but relevance is key. Include experiences that align with the program's themes. This could be academic or professional or extracurricular. Diversity is awesome. So you want to ensure that you are showing as many parts of you as possible, but ensure that they are applicable and aligned with the program. Next, if you have this, highlight your international cross cultural experiences. Erasmus Mundus is all about global engagement. So if you've studied abroad or worked with international teams or engaged in multicultural projects, or perhaps you were a mentor for international students who came to your university and you were part of a buddy system, make sure to showcase that. These are really good points to include. Next, you want to quantify your achievements wherever possible. Instead of saying, for example, manage social media or manage social media for an organization, you might want to say instead, manage social media channels such as TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and increased engagement by 40% in 6 months. Numbers help to demonstrate that impact. So it is important if you can put a numerical value or some type of output in a percentage or in another number figure, go ahead and do that. I recognize that this won't apply to every single position or job or role. And that's totally fine. But wherever you can, if you can put some type of impact, that helps the selection committees envision what you've done. And then finally, like I said previously, you want to use this format for your bullet points. That means action verb, task or project, and then results or impact. So, for example, instead of saying supervised 4 interns, you might want to say instead led a research team of 4 interns to produce a 10-page policy report adopted by the government of ABC. That already is a lot stronger than supervised 4 interns because you are now focusing on what you produced, a 10-page policy report for who. Really hope that these elements and points were helpful. By following these strategies, your CV will stand out as a structured, compelling, and strategic document that clearly demonstrates your qualifications for Erasmus Mundus. Together, we are going to look at different CV examples. I'm going to start with a couple that need a lot of improvement and work. Then I will show some templates of stronger CV options that you can use. Again, if your program requires or recommends Europass, you're not going to use these templates that I'm going to give you soon. You will be following what the options are on Europass. This video is still going to be very beneficial in terms of hearing my feedback about the content of the CV. This CV or resume needs a lot of work, as you can tell. You're probably going to identify many areas of improvement. To start, this email is not professional. It needs to be updated with something like your first and last name, something like that. Objective. This is something that we should stay away from, especially if we are applying to Erasmus Mundus. Again, the selection committees already know what your objective is. That is to get accepted to this program and get the scholarship. So if you are going to use this space to restate that objective, that's a waste of words and that is space that can be allocated towards something a lot more impactful. Instead of this objective type of thing, What you might want to do instead is the summary. This is something that a lot of career professionals are also recommending because if the recruiter, or in our case, the selection committee, if they did not continue reading your resume and only read the summary, they would have a good idea of your profile. The summary is often 3 to 4 sentences, and it is talking about your profile. So, what is your history, your proven track record? What are you working in now? What are your specializations? There are a lot of good examples online about how to construct this type of summary. And I will show you in the better CV example where that can go as well. But for something like objective, I am seeking to be admitted to the Erasmus Mundus program with the scholarship. You don't need to do that. That's just wasting space. If we continue, the person is fluctuating from numerical to the actual word of the month. So '09, and then you have May spelled out. Consistency is really important here. I can already see there's a big lack of consistency. When this person talked about their education, they just started listing. Join student clubs, which, okay, that's great, but I'm not really sure what this person's actual contribution was. What did they do? What did they achieve? Who did they work with? Interestingly, this person has international experience. How long was the study abroad program? Did you receive any scholarships or funding? What did you study in these countries? Where did you study specifically? What were the universities? Again, all this person did is just write that they participated, but not much more detail. Work experience, same thing with the consistency. The alignment of the text is off. That for the reader is quite confusing and it really disrupts our flow. So you need to ensure that if you're putting the title of the job or role and then the company, follow that structure. Whereas here, this person put the company and then their role and did the opposite here. So it's very confusing. The duties are also very vague: help in gallery, work with owner, complete paperwork for sales. There aren't really strong verbs, no action verbs, no quantifying the outcome. How many customers did you help each day? Doing what exactly? If you're doing sales, what was your percentage? How much did you have to sell, or how much on average did you sell? This is, it's hard to figure out here. Same with being a waitress. Used people skills. What does that exactly mean? Answered phones, opened restaurant. This is just summarizing again the job duties. That's what you want to stay away from for the CV. You don't want to be summarizing, this is what I did every day. You want to put, what was your impact? How did you help the company? Did you present a new idea? Did you come up with a different way to do something? How was it received? Add a bit more than this. There should be 2 minimum bullets using action verbs. Skills and interests. Photoshop is spelled incorrectly. Enjoy dancing, going to concerts, and to travel. Again, that's wonderful. And I'm glad that Caroline enjoys these things, but that's not really appropriate for a CV, especially to Erasmus Mundus. You're applying to a master's degree. So things like these types of hobbies, they're just kind of fluffy. They're not really helping the selection committee figure out why you are appropriate for this program, why you fit in, how this program will benefit you and your goals. This is just telling them things that you do in your free time, which that's awesome that you have that type of balance, but remove that from the CV because you can be using this space to put more bullets about what results you achieved in your job. Same thing, volunteered during Earth Day in high school, helped with Relay for Life walk. Instead of saying other, This should be a separate section, such as extracurricular activities, volunteer experience, leadership experience, something like that, rather than just other and putting some type of list there. You want to have each section, each position, each experience with its own spot on your CV. So this is okay if you're doing like your first draft on OneNote where you've copied and pasted your previous CV and you're just playing around. That's okay, but I would not submit anything like this. There are a lot of areas of improvement. Now we have this one. It's a mock CV, Michael Scott. It's a bit better compared to Caroline's, but still a lot of things we can improve. If you just note, there's already so much blank space here, and that can be used a lot more strategically. Now, I'm not saying that you should cram everything into a size 4 text. Please don't do that. But given that there is so much extra space here, that means you can put more of your impact and achievements. So maximize the space. For some programs, you only have 2 pages. So you want to be more strategic in how you are actually structuring and designing your CV. It's a bit better with the LinkedIn. With Twitter, I would remove that personally. Any type of social media, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, I would remove that and then instead put LinkedIn if you want to, because LinkedIn is more for professional, whereas whereas Facebook, TikTok, that's very personal and you don't need that on there. If, for example, you run your own nonprofit or you have a company or side hustle and you want to put that as a link, you can just indicate with a note that that is not social media, it's your personal company or your personal project. Same thing with the hobbies. I would remove this. Anything that has hobbies, pastimes, what you like to do in your free time, you don't need to include it. Instead, you want to be putting skills and competencies. If there are apps that you know how to use, programming language, that will give the selection committee a lot more context than basketball. Because basketball, that could be any Erasmus Mundus applicant. But if you're putting specifically the competencies and tools that you know, that's a lot stronger. If you don't want to put competencies, that's okay. What about awards? If you've won awards, if you've presented at conferences, attended conferences, that's going to be a lot stronger than these random hobbies that don't align with your program at all. As you will have noticed, those 2 examples are not Europass format. I'm going to show a CV example with the Europass format so you can understand how they are different. This was a previous applicant, but I changed the personal information. So this is a stock photo, changed the name, the website email address, and I changed a couple of the work experiences so she can't be identified just for confidentiality and privacy. About me, I am a positive and hardworking candidate who is eager to complete an Erasmus Mundus Masters in Europe. The selection committee knows this. If you're applying and going through all of the steps to submit an application, they're assuming that you are interested. They're assuming that you want to participate in this program. Instead of this, you want to put a summary, but this is not going to help boost your application in any way. Education and training, Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences. So she did put the final grade, which is nice. Extracurricular involvement, international student body, Seattle U Debate Club, dance, student government. It's nice that she put her extracurricular involvement, but impact, results, outcome, output, is that indicated here? No. All the selection committee can interpret is that she participated maybe in these events and student bodies. It would be very different, though, if she put student government and she put that she was the vice president. A lot more impactful. Dance, is this dance class at a gym or is this a competitive university team and she was the captain and they went to competitions, for example? Same with debate. How many debates? On what topics? Where did you debate? Did you travel to other places? So this is okay for a start, but a lot more context would be helpful. Let's go to the work experience section. The consistency is better here compared to the first one in Caroline's. So the dates are better, but there's still a lot of blank space. For work experience, look at all of this blank space here that could have been used to emphasize the leadership, the involvement, the impact and outcome. Test a culturally adapted physical activity promotion program for older adults to improve brain health. What kind of program? Online, in person, using what technology? How many older adults? And what are the ages? Because that could be a very big range. One bullet, I think, is too little for this type of role, especially because this is the most recent and current role. So you want to add more information here. Teaching assistant at Seattle University, supported students during class activities and provided academic assistance. How many students? What level? What format? Was it online, in person? Prepare learning materials? What kind of learning materials? And classroom organization. As you can see, there are no numbers in any of these job experiences. So the selection committee can't make a lot of interpretations that are positive for this candidate. Assistant supported special projects and grant applications. Special projects could be anything. What does that look like? Who did she work with? And grant applications to which bodies? If they're government bodies, you might want to list the names of the government bodies or agencies. Assisted in coordinating and implementing. It's better if you just wrote coordinated and implemented. Assisted in doesn't help. I've already said a lot about the hobbies and interests. I would not include this. Take it out completely, especially because there's so much information that is going to be needed from these positions. You won't have room for hobbies and interests, and it's not going to boost your application in any way. Volunteering. So she wrote that she was an interpreter and she provided in person and remote interpretation services during school meetings and healthcare appointments. But how many meetings? How many appointments? Was it 5 appointments weekly for 1 hour each? And also in what language? Nowhere on the CE does it indicate the languages that Allison speaks and is proficient in. So that would be good to put here. Help families in navigating systems. That's great, but it's also very vague. What exactly do you provide in terms of help? What does that look like? And what do the families gain from your assistance? This right here, I see a lot of applicants doing this. They fill their CV with very old experiences. This is from 2019. The experience is great, and I'm sure Allison got a lot of skills and competencies, but it's not exactly relevant in terms of the time, especially because you have this from summer camp facilitator in 2019, but these more recent activities at the university, like student buddy, debate, student government, this is not expanded on. So you're using precious space to talk about an experience from 2019. Meanwhile, you have other experiences here that are basically unaccounted for. So if I were in this situation, I would remove this, especially because it was only 3 months long. And I would instead update volunteering to extracurricular activities, for example. And then you can combine the interpreter with the student activities that you did on campus. If you have publications, that's really good to add to your overall CV. If you're applying to the master's level, research, fieldwork are big parts to this type of program. If you have previous research experience and publications, really good to put on your CV. Next, conferences and seminars. Just like I said before, master's level, there's a lot of networking, presenting papers, posters at different conferences and spaces. And it's great that Allison started to put these here, but you can see a couple areas where we can improve. With this conference, I can't see the city or country where this happened. She did put Stockholm, Sweden here, but didn't here. That is going to affect the consistency and flow and the selection committee's experience reading the CV. Student oral presentation. So I I'm assuming that this is some type of speech to an audience, but I don't really know. I would love to know how many people attended the conference, how many people did Allison speak to, what was the presentation about? It doesn't say here. It just says oral presentation and the name of the conference, but what was the topic of the seminar or of the presentation? Now we have this delegate, World Summit on Youth Mental Health, fully funded. This is something you really want to emphasize. You want to brag about this. If you were fully funded to attend a conference, say more than just fully funded. How much was the scholarship or funding amount worth? Was it for the conference entry or participation fee, or was it also for travel, accommodation, meals? Brag. If you don't brag, the selection committee is not going to know. Put a lot of information, especially if you were awarded and selected to attend, whether it's a conference, a seminar, any type of training. And if you received a scholarship or bursary or funding, brag, share it. Allison also wrote that she was a delegate, but a, can you be more specific? A delegate on what theme or what category? What did you cover at the summit on youth mental health? Being more specific will help the selection committee understand and almost envision you there. More can be done for this section, absolutely. Especially because there's so much empty space here. It's not like Allison is exceeding 5 pages. Sure. She only did a page and a half. So there's so much room here for adding extra points, information, expanding more, quantifying the impact. Lots of empty space as well over here. Again, if you are required or recommended to use Europass, you will be using Europass. But if you are able to select any type of template that you want, there are many great ones out there and there are many not so good ones out there. My hope is that you feel more confident and more prepared to tackle the CVs, especially now that you have seen weak CVs and what makes them weak. When we talk about professional experience, the actual content may be different depending on the applicant. Some applicants finished their undergraduate degree 10 years ago, so they have been working and growing in their professional career, whereas other applicants are in their fourth year of their bachelor's. So they do not have that time frame. Their professional experience may look different. It may look like internships or fellowships versus paid supervisory roles. And that is totally okay. It's important that you have your education credentials, whether you've already received them or they are pending, and professional experience. The important thing is that you have flow, consistency in the text size and the font, but the actual categories of content, it will look different, and that is okay. The important piece is that you are giving those details and quantifying as much as possible. When we look at skills and areas of expertise, I always encourage folks to select ones that are related to the program. That means if you are applying to the Erasmus Mundus Master's Program in Public Policy, which is called Mundus MAP, you may want to reconsider including CRM tools and content creation as your top areas of expertise. This is the case if you have been working in public policy or policy development for several months or years. You likely will have a lot more that is aligned to the program. I cannot stress this enough. Alignment is crucial. Please do not send the same CV to the 3 or 5 programs that you are applying to. Each program should have a dedicated CV because each program is so different, just like for a job. If you're applying to job A, you want to tailor your CV to job A because job A is not going to be the same as job B. There are different tasks, different teams, different organizational culture. So you want to ensure that those two puzzle pieces, your CV and the goal, are fitting together. That means you should stay away from putting irrelevant things. If your goal is to fill up space, there are many other ways to do that, but pulling whatever experiences you can and hope it sticks and convinces the selection committee, that is not the best approach. Another reminder, focus on your achievements and impact. You are not listing your job duties and responsibilities on your CV. If your bullet points are summarizing what you do at work every day, start over. You do not want to do this. The bullet points are there for you to express your impact, your achievements, how things have changed as a result of your work. What have you done to bring more positive outcomes to your organization or company? You are not summarizing what you do from 9 to 5, for example. This CV layout and template specifically is if you are a current student or a recent graduate. This one might be for you. I'm sharing this one because a lot of students ask me, I'm still in my bachelor's degree. I haven't had real world experience. I'm not a competitive applicant. What do I do? The truth is that I'm very confident you have a real world experience and you have excellent skills and knowledge that can be shared and conveyed. It's just how you convey and package it for the selection committee. So in this example, we have our standard basic information, first name, last name. If you want to put a title in there, you absolutely can. Some folks are working because they've graduated already and this is their first year working. You can put your title in there. Some students have founded a nonprofit or created an app. You can put that here if you want to. Again, very customizable and it's totally up to you. Summary. So, this is not the objective like we saw in the previous 3 examples. We're not doing the objective thing, we're doing the summary. You're going to keep it short and sweet. 2 to 4 lines should be enough to explain who you are, what you're going to offer the program, and what your goals are. If you have some metrics, you can include that here, perhaps from a previous internship or volunteer placement. If you already have a lot of experience, you may not need to do this summary. You can go right into your professional experience, your education credentials and publications, etc. But this is there as a buffer because some applicants feel that they want to have it and need to have it. So it's there for you. We have a section for projects. This is ideally where you have been the leader, where you have initiated, design, created some type of project. Maybe you ran for student council and you are the president or VP of Student Affairs. This is a project where you have a lot of ownership over. You want to give a short description. You want to give the project title, the location, same with the duration, that key formula, action verb, task or project, metric, or results. For example, created a new training and accountability program that increased productivity from number 10 to number 3 in the region in less than a 2-year period. You want to have about 3 points for this role that specifically apply to that project. Think of the projects as the biggest and boldest projects and accomplishments you have led or designed. 2 is a good number. That is very fair. But you can have more, you could have 3. It would just depend on what things you want to highlight. A lot of students feel they don't have any experience or any quote working experience that's paid, but they've been very involved on their campus informally as a volunteer or as a student leader or a student advocate. So that's where these projects can come in. Then you're moving on to professional experience. Same thing, your company name, job title, the location, duration, and we're using that same formula again. As an example, raised more than $10,000 at the annual fundraiser, increasing attendance by 38% and donor pledges by 26%. Another example, designed a new trauma-informed after-school arts program for children aged 4 to 6 years old, which achieved a 98% completion rate. These are a lot different and they're stronger. Imagine if I just wrote assisted with a new trauma-informed program. Okay, but then I'm wondering, who is this program for? What was the outcome? And there's a difference between designed and assisted. Then you're going to proceed with your credentials related to education. So your university, your program major, GPA, if you got any academic awards, honors, etc., and the dates as well. Here we have courses. So if you have completed extra certifications, you can put these here. Some people may decide to omit the courses and instead do volunteer experience or conferences and seminars or publications. These sections are very flexible, but they are presented in this way mainly for folks who are still in their last year of their bachelor's or they've just recently graduated. What you need to be thinking is, how can you be strategic with the projects and accomplishments that you've already done? This is for student or recent. Here we have the template for 5 years of experience or less than. Not absolute. If you have 6 or 4, that's totally okay. But 5 is the average or the general number. So you're doing first and last name, role title, biography or summary. It'll be good to have, especially because you've accumulated different projects in years under your belt. Areas of expertise. So what are you very knowledgeable about? What do people come to you about? What are you contributing to your field? So if you write something in areas of expertise, but it's not backed up by anything later on in the CV, the selection committee may wonder why. How can you claim that's an area of expertise? We also have professional experience, very similar like with the previous example. Same principles, action verb, task or project, metric or result. Of course, in this template, because the candidate will have about 5 years or less of experience, there will be more content for the professional experience. We also have education. Just like before, you're putting your institution name, major, GPA, any awards. If there are any highlights from your university career, you can put that here as well. A lot of applicants may have also done a graduate certificate, for example. This can go here. So you're putting the duration as well. And then you have your additionals. So These are your hard skills and soft skills. Always remember to tailor this to the program or programs that you are applying to. If they are looking for a certain aspect or certain requirements, you want to mirror that in your CV. Same thing. If they are looking for languages, then you can add a section about languages. If you want to add also about publications or awards or conferences or seminars, maybe you've presented posters at different places, you can create a separate section as well. The order can be a bit different. Know that you want the heart of your application and your CV on this first page, especially the top half or top third. The CV is also only a page at the moment, so there is a lot of room to add different content. Remember, in terms of the time relevance, if you're applying for 2027, for example, you don't really want to be having past and finished experiences from 2020 or 2021. If you started in 2020 and that's been your role to date or until 2024 or 25, for example, that's totally different. But if you did a 5-month fellowship from January to May 2020, then you might want to reconsider that and create things that are more relevant and timely and recent. Now we are moving on to 5+ years of experience, give or take. It could be 5, 6, 7, but these are for the applicants who have worked in their field or industries for a very long time. They may have pivoted or they've been within the same company, but they've climbed the ladder and embarked on different roles. This is more for them. Very similar start with basic information, your summary, areas of expertise. What's different is that you want to highlight the key achievement. What have you achieved across your experience, across your career history? This is really nice to break down from the selection committee because it's almost like a summary of a summary. These are your biggest and most worthy achievements that you want to highlight and you want to make them stand out one by one. Then we also have professional experience, same thing, because you have 5+ years of experience, there could be 4 or 5 different entries in this area. Education and additional skills, just like before. Because you will have 5 years of experience, likely you might want to add different sections. For example, leadership. Professional, you're keeping to paid work, and leadership, you're doing separately. Maybe you're on a board of directors or you're part of a community development council. That can be distinct from each other. Just like I said before, awards, publications, international experience. If you have a lot of international experience, that may be worthy of its own section, just so it's separate from everything else. But you can also incorporate some of those key achievements here as well. It's really up to you. But as you can see with these templates, there is a lot less blank space compared to the not so good examples. In those examples, there was a lot of blank space, almost no numbers to quantify the impact. So these are a lot stronger, a lot more organized, fluid for the text, the font. It's easier to read, but it's not overwhelming. It's not like the text is packed and it's confusing the reader. The CV is someone that has graduated in May 2024. This may be similar to you. And I like to give this example because it shows that even if you have graduated very recently or within the last year or two, you can create a very strong CV to express who you are in your portfolio. Here we have very good basic information. It's professional, not too big, not too small. Then we're going into education. We have the university, we have the major, the GPA, and the honors or involvement. and also the location and the date. Professional experience. What I really like about the CV is that it's easy to read, it flows well, the structure's great. And beside each one of the organization or company names, this person has put a very short text about what this company or organization focuses on, which is very helpful because if I'm looking at Dearest Inc., I have no idea what actually this company does. I can assume from the bullet points, but having this context, childcare startup serving 200 plus families in New York, I can think, okay, it gives me context. So as a reader, it's very helpful. This person did an excellent job with the quantifying of the impact and output and results, conducted 20 plus primary interviews with equipment dealers, and analyzed 500 plus quotes via Excel, reformulated revenue projection model for top to US telecommunication firm. You'll notice not every single bullet point has that numerical aspect, and that's okay. You don't have to invent things that don't actually exist. This person created a good balance between achievements, accomplishments, and impact. Same thing here with Asia Society, a small text that it's an international nonprofit organization, secured 75% discounted air tickets, identified and interviewed two Japan food based shipping companies. Really good. The person who has this resume could very well have said assisted with interviews, but they didn't. Instead, they wrote identified and interviewed two Japan based food shipping companies to supply for banquet and a sign on budget. Very helpful. A lot stronger than assisted or supported with no description or context. Dearest Ink as well, really good. Wrote a 500-word article per week on education related topics to 100 plus readers. Very, very solid. Then we're moving down to leadership and involvement. The symposium fellow, we have this here. I really like that this person has emphasized how competitive the fellowship is. Selected from 50 plus applicants to receive fellowship to teach humanities to high school students and university students in Beijing. If you can put how many people you were selected from, that really helps show how competitive you are and you have been in previous opportunities. Selected from 300 plus applicants to participate in series of professional development consulting case workshops. Placed third in Best Buy case competition among 29 participants. So not only is she saying what she did, but she's also saying how the result was. So she placed third and among 29 participants. If you only said place third out of how many? Place third out of three? I don't know. But by putting in those extra numbers, it helps. There's also a lot of space as well. So if you only said place third, you have this entire line to take advantage of. And then skills and interests, we have Microsoft Office, Photoshop, Google AdWords, and the languages as well. This resume is only one page. When I first saw it, I thought, wow, this is very strong. If your Erasmus Mundus program will allow 2 pages, there is still room for more sections, more awards, more international experience, publications, conferences. But as you can see, with just one page, you're able to fill it, but fill it strategically. When I'm looking at this, I'm not overwhelmed. I feel very good about reading the CV because it makes sense and it's giving me everything that I need to know. Compare this with the previous one from Allison or Caroline, such a big difference. In fact, Caroline's and Allison's had 2 pages, but it didn't feel as comprehensive and strong like this one. This is a great CV example for a recent graduate or if you're in your fourth year in your bachelor's. This is another CV with more of a research focus. Not everything will apply to the Erasmus Mundus program and the profile of applicants who are applying, but you'll be able to see overall that it is quite well done. In this CV, I really like how this profile is structured. We can call it profile, summary, biography. I like this. And if I did not read anything else in this CV and only read this, I would still have a pretty good idea who this candidate is because they have put 13 years of experience in academia and industry and a couple of key bullet points. This candidate in particular has a lot of research experience. You can see postdoctoral fellow. That won't be applicable for the applicants applying to Erasmus Mundus, but you can see how this has been structured. There's a good number of applicants applying to Erasmus Mundus who have already achieved a master's. Often this was a master's from 5 or 10 years ago, and they're pivoting industries. So they may have done research and field work. These are good ways of how you can put them into your CV. The summary is not too overwhelming, but it's telling the reader what exactly was accomplished. The structure overall is very good, easy to read. Dissertation title, very solid. If you have a lot of research experience, this might be an option for you. For page 2, we have industry experience. We also have technical skills and education. Again, for Erasmus Mundus, this will not be applicable, but there could be a master's already accomplished, in which case you would put your master's and then your bachelor's credentials. The awards and fellowships are also quite well done. The only thing I would add is that if these had a financial component, such as a scholarship, put the value in there. So graduate fellowship, if you were compensated in any way, for example, maybe the award value was $10,000, you can put that in here. Same with the publication award. Sometimes recipients will receive an honorarium. Put that in there as well. Honorarium of $1,000, for example. All of those components that you think, oh, these are little, no one cares about it, they emphasize prestige, that you have a solid track record, that you are a competitive applicant. Why? Because other agencies, organizations, governments have invested in you. We also have publications at the bottom. I would add the year as well, if that's available. And you can also put how the publication can be found. This is 2 pages. Very good for 2 pages. Again, there is a research focus. So for a lot of Erasmus Mundus applicants, there would need to be some changes made, but the flow and the presentation is strong. From the selection committee point of view, I could see, wow, this person has a lot of experience. They've done many different projects, made contributions to the field. This is very solid overall. So we have this one, and then we have this one. Okay, we have looked at the weaker CVs. We've looked at strong CVs, how you can structure them, what you need to do to stand out.
I sincerely hope this video was helpful. I am sending you the best of luck with your CV. Subscribe to stay connected and to get my upcoming videos on scholarships and opportunities.